As I was reading my copy of The Story of Philosophy, I kept noticing that out of all of these famous philosophers who are visionaries far ahead of their time, their work is still used and quoted today, some of these philosophers had these ideas about women that I have to say were totally warped. Hello and welcome back to a special episode today on the Looking Glass World, which has to do with this book, The Story of Philosophy, and some of the well-known philosophers in it. Now, I was totally shocked to see how these brilliant men could be so wrong about women, and I couldn't decide which one was the worst. So I took to Instagram, to our community at the Looking Glass World, and I asked everyone there to vote on it and decide. Now, today the votes are in, and we are going to play a little game called Who Said It the Worst? Ready? Let's go. I have my notes here as usual. So how this is going to work is we have 4 rounds today, and each of these rounds features 3 quotes that were really said by very famous philosophers. So let's jump right in with round 1, biology. So starting us off, we have Plato with the average mother accepts the newborn babe rather with resignation than with joy. Our next nominee is Aristotle with women have fewer teeth than men. And thirdly, we've got Spencer saying the arrival of motherhood normally brings a diminution of intellectual activity. I asked everyone to tell me which of these they found the most ridiculous, and the winner with 56% of the votes is Spencer with the arrival of motherhood normally brings a diminution of intellectual activity. My money was on Aristotle with women have fewer teeth than men, which could have easily been looked into even in his times, but there you have it. Now here's where Spencer sits in a gray area. Scientists have found that during pregnancy and after giving birth, the brain chemistry or the physiology, I'm not exactly sure, but the brain changes. That we know. Now, what we don't know is what exactly those changes are for. They obviously serve some function. They're obviously there for the benefit of the mother and the child. And maybe Spencer picked up on that a little bit, but then made the mistake of assuming that this change meant a loss of intellect as opposed to whatever is really going on. Now we come to round 2 on the nature of women. I asked everyone to tell me which of these statements was the most outrageous, starting with women represent reproduction and subjugation of the intellect. Man, what is it with these? Anyway, to the will to live and make live. This is a quote by Voltaire and basically means that the only thing women care about is reproducing and making babies. The second quote we have is also Voltaire with woman is the culprit. Her thoughts and charms allure man to reproduction and thereby away from intellect. Basically what he's saying is the female sexuality is to blame for all intellectual failings in man. And the third quote is, surprise, surprise, again Voltaire, who's killing it in this category, with all women are, with rare exception, inclined to extravagance because they live only in the present and their chief outdoor sport is shopping. Okay, so our winner is obviously Voltaire. But which one got the most votes? Our winner here is female sexuality is to blame for all shortcomings in the male intellect. I don't think I need to say more. You'll be happy to know that Voltaire's head was fixed back on his shoulders by a woman whose name I am a little bit scared to pronounce. She was a brilliant individual and had an incredible mind and understood mathematics and physics and was well read, and just Voltaire didn't know what to do with it. So he started seeing her romantically. Voltaire would then meet all of her equally intelligent friends and the metaphorical scales fell from his eyes. And he went so far as to say that women and men might just be born with an equal intellectual capacity. So we are now at round 3, which is about women's place in society. And we're starting off strong with Aristotle coming in with silence is a woman's glory, followed by Schopenhauer, who says the less we have to do with women, the better. Life is safer and smoother without them. And lastly, we have Spencer with women should not vote because they do not risk their lives in battle. And the winner of Who Said It Worst is Spencer with women should not vote because they do not risk their lives in battle. Now, the author of this book, which I have here, the author of this book himself says that Spencer tended to contradict himself quite a bit. So, for example, he says that political rights have no importance, but then he also says that it is very important that women don't have them. In another area, he thoroughly denounces war, but then says this, that women should not vote because they don't fight in wars. And to that, I feel like the author's response is strong enough, where he himself says that this is a shameful argument for any man to use who has been born of a woman suffering. And with that, we come to the final round on equality. So I asked everybody to vote on which statement was the most problematic out of our 3 nominees, starting of course with Aristotle, with woman is to man as the slave to the master. Following Aristotle, we have Schopenhauer with women should always stand under male supervision, be that a father, a husband, or worst of all, a son. And lastly, we have Nietzsche with equality between man and woman is impossible. Peace comes only when one or the other is acknowledged master. And the winner of the final round for today, with a whopping 72% of the votes, is Aristotle with woman is to man as the slave to the master. And with that, we are done. I hope you enjoyed today's special episode. A big congratulations to all of our brilliant philosophers who are nominated today. If you want to know my thoughts in a little bit more detail about why I felt like this is an important thing and why we can't always use the argument of it was a different time, you can check out the article that I wrote about it, and I'll link that in the description. But I have to also give props where props is due. There was one philosopher, although he was nominated today in category number 1, and that's Plato. He did say something which I thought was probably the most feminist thing I saw from any philosopher in the entire book, and he came before them all. And he basically envisioned a world order based purely on merit, where every single child was given equal education, opportunity, and rigorously tested, and then placed into roles according to what they did best. So according to him, and I will quote so that nobody gets mad at me, women who are good at ruling, let them rule. And men who are good at washing dishes, let them do so. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is feminism. It's not about one versus the other. Now, if Plato could say that and envision that so many hundreds of years before any of these philosophers even existed, I will say that takes away a little bit from the merit of the "it was a different time" argument. But yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like it and leave me a comment, and most importantly, subscribe. If you want to look at interesting articles and short stories, you can head to my website at aradhanamatthews.com, or you can join us on my Instagram community, The Looking Glass World. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.